Spending the money, for me, it returned in less than a month. Maybe you do go that full 6 months. You're still going to make that back immediately as soon as you get a position. So I think that you should value your life more than, $2,000 or whatever it may be. If you're thinking about making the switch, you definitely should. If you're this far and you're looking at testimonials or you're looking at the 5-day challenge, you must be at least somewhat serious. So invest in yourself. At the time that I started the program, I was a little bit further along than a lot of other people. I was actually already a ranger in Trailhead. The day that I had signed up for the program, I was taking my certification exam. Luckily, I passed it on my first try, so I got to kind of skip the whole study guide experience. But that's not the important part for the program, at least not for me. You can pass the test. Anyone can pass the test. Just like any other test you study, you have a written guideline on what the test is going to have. You study that material, you'll be fine, pass to get the certification. But all the other things like your LinkedIn, your interviews, your negotiations, the groups that you get to join and be a part of, that's where I found most of the value in the program. I definitely did the 5-day challenge. I luckily didn't have to worry about probably like two or three of the days. But the last 2 days, I think, was like the LinkedIn, and then it was also just what else the program entails. Really convinced me, and I knew those were all things I needed to work on and potentially just save me time on getting a position. I was working about probably 45 to 50 hours a week. So I was working a lot. I was studying for my exam. I actually took me a month to pass the exam. And that was with studying about 4 hours at night. So every day for about a month. So for me, that's what it took. Some people could be shorter, could be longer. Like I said, I got my certification taken care of on the first try. So I don't think that process is the hardest, but I mean, it definitely is a time commitment. I think you get in what you put, you get out what you put in. So I was spending about 4 hours a day, like I said, working on the program, doing different things. I spent a lot of time on the volunteer experience. Yeah, I was probably doing about 20 hours on the volunteer experience on top of my full-time position. So I was spending a lot of time. LinkedIn is a pretty amazing platform. I mean, you make your first change and you start, or one recruiter reaches out to you, or two recruiters reach out to you, and you're like, oh man, my LinkedIn's, really well, going well. And then you have, Anita or someone else on the administration side look at your profile and give you even more critiques. And then you do that. And then you start getting reached out, you're getting 10, 15, 20 recruiters a week, and you're just like, man, I can't keep up with this anymore. It's pretty amazing. You know when you've hit the sweet spot, I think, on your LinkedIn profile. I always tell people that ask me about the program and LinkedIn in general, how do I know when I should be, moving on to the next steps with my resume or, trying to get interviews? I'm like, well, are you getting people reaching out to you on LinkedIn? And they're like, no. I'm like, you need to work on your LinkedIn. They're like, all right, well, I got my people reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, well, are they getting you to interviews? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, then you need to work on your resume. So it's just, it all works hand in hand, but it's pretty amazing when it starts to come together. And obviously, all the experience that you get through any position is going to be important. But it's not necessarily going to be a direct relationship. You're definitely going to want to have all of those soft skills because they're just as important as your tech skills can be. Obviously, when you get your certification and then getting the volunteer experience, that's going to be probably the most important things, and just really making sure that you're a good fit for the company. So definitely focus on your soft skills as well as your tech skills. Yeah, I mean, everyone has doubts about you whenever you're going through the interviewing process. Pretty common for people to have doubts on someone switching from a new field, especially if it's not tech related. You don't have any Salesforce experience, or you don't have any full-time Salesforce experience. Even I know for me, one of my first interviews, I got shot down because the recruiter told me that volunteer experience didn't count. And that just completely threw me off. Luckily, that is not the case for 99% of jobs. They do care about volunteer experience. They think it is just as important as full-time experience. I think those are all things that you get, as just going through the process. You're going to get that volunteer experience. You're going to get experience just working in the Salesforce ecosystem and communicating with people in the ecosystem. And those things all transition to when you're actually interviewing. When I had my offer extended to me, obviously I was very excited. I kind of knew that it was coming just from the way that the other interviews were coming and the way they were shaping up. I think when you're, following the program and you're prepared for the interviews, it takes a lot of the stress off. And I think employers can see that as well. They feel more confident in hiring you. My last interview was actually with someone that I was going to be working with, and they kind of gave me a heads up, let me know, hey, we like you, everyone that you've interviewed with likes you, and we're all confident you can do the position well. More than likely we'll be extending you a position, so just be looking out for that call. I got the call about 2 hours later with the head of HR, and they just kind of threw me the offer, and that's when negotiations started. The one that extended the offer was the VP of HR, so it was pretty much the highest on the food chain. So I didn't have to speak to anyone else about the negotiations, but it was a few different calls. The first call was kind of just a counter offer. They actually kind of put me on a timer, so something that I wasn't expecting, but through that timer window, we had about probably 3 or 4 conversations about some things that would make the offer better, and they were, more than happy to go along with that. Because I think a lot of the people in the program are working full-time. Some people have, full-time position, part-time positions, kids, families. The fact that it's structured in a way that's self-guided and self-paced, you really can take your time in places that you may struggle. You can accelerate through the places that you don't. And I think that makes it a lot more efficient than having to, some of the other programs that are like on a weekly basis or, whatever structure it may be. One of the toughest parts for me was starting the program and thinking that I had, I knew what I was doing, or I thought I was getting there, and then I started getting more feedback from, yourself, and then Anita and Brad and everything, and starting to incorporate those things like into my LinkedIn or resume, and seeing people actually pushing me through the process. When you first start out and you start putting in your applications, you're just going to see rejection, and it's going to discourage you. But I would tell myself just to keep going. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen faster than you think. So